Okay, long story short, I was at brunch with some friends. They became aware that I am a avid audiobook listener, and they proceeded to ridicule me in good nature. This isn't the first time I've come across this kind of prejudice. There's always been this theory that reading is a greater accomplishment than listening to a book. I think this goes way back to the beginning, where it was the literate versus the illiterate. You know, the people that could read held a higher stature in society. But nevertheless, I came home, I felt completely deflated. Last year, I had spent over 1,000 hours listening to audiobooks, covered over 45 titles. I felt like my accomplishment wasn't being recognized. I was going to post my feelings about this on a Facebook group, the Adult Nerd Fighters, fantastic group. Chose not to. I was going to make a video instead and went to bed. The next morning I woke up, somebody else had the exact same question and posted it about the exact same time I was going to. So I had lots of data to make a video with, so thank you. The question is, do audiobooks count as reading? And after some serious soul searching, I have to say no. No, they don't. And the reason why they don't is because of the definition of reading, which is reading, noun, mass noun, the action or skill of reading, the reading of a will, suggestions for further reading. As modifier, reading skills, written or printed matter that can be read. His main reading was detective stories with adjective. I found the article fascinating reading, usually with adjective. Knowledge of literature, a man of wide reading, an occasion at which pieces of literature are read to an audience, a poetry reading, a piece of literature or passage of scripture that is read aloud, reading of the Bible, a particular interpretation of a text or situation, feminist reading of Goethe, a figure or amount shown by a meter or other measuring instrument. Radiation readings were taken every hour. A stage of debate in Parliament through which a bill must pass before it can become law. The bill returns to the House for its final reading next week. So nowhere in there is room for an audiobook. Audiobooks just don't fit. You could maybe argue a little bit that the second definition, attending a poetry reading or something along those lines kind of counts, but unless you're the one actually doing the reading at a reading, you're just attending it. So I think the heart, the crux of the question is, do they count? Does listening to an audiobook deserve recognition? And you're consuming the knowledge, right? So I think you have to ask what a book does. What is its function? The function of a book is to lock a story or an idea in time so it can't change from storyteller to storyteller. Also, it allows people to produce multiple copies of the same story and spread them about. And audiobooks most certainly allow this function to be completed. So they count as books as far as I'm concerned, just not reading. You're listening. Now, reading, like listening, is a skill. And like any skill, you have to practice and hone that skill. So I think that's where some of the prejudice and some of the elitism comes from, is that a person that is well-read and can read very well, they've practiced their skill. They've honed their skill, and they deserve the recognition that they from their accomplishment. And for somebody that's a listener to come in and say, well, I'm a reader, I can see where that would make somebody feel dismissed. Where their accomplishment is dismissed by that. Like you can't say you're a snowboarder if you're a skier, and vice versa. Both are equally awesome, fun to do, but they are different. So it goes beyond semantics. They're two different things. Now, I understand I want recognition for my accomplishment of listening to audiobooks. I'm an excellent listener. I practice my skill. My wife might not think I'm an excellent listener, but I really am. I can listen and do multiple things at once. It's not something everybody can do, which is fine. But I want that recognition. And I know it's deflating to say, no, I listen to it when somebody asks you, have you read this? Because I know they judge you, and I know they think less of your accomplishment. And it's not fair, but that's just the way it works. And only through education and teaching people about this are we going to be able to change this. Now, one of the best arguments I saw was, would you say that a blind man who listens to audiobooks isn't well read, or the equivalent of? And of course not. No, you wouldn't say that. Now, you might argue that you'd have to read Braille for it to count, and Braille is reading, even though you're doing it with your fingers, because reading is the act of reading something that is written, and writing is the act of adding marks or symbols to a surface, Braille. So you could argue that, but you would give him the benefit of the doubt. So why wouldn't you give that to somebody else with another disability, like dyslexia? I myself am very dyslexic. I have a hard time reading. It takes me forever to get through a book. I don't get to immerse myself in the story. It's not very fun. It's just a big challenge. And, I do get a sense of accomplishment when I finish one, But usually when I'm reading something, it's technical. It's not, it's not for enjoyment. There's usually graphs and, images, things that I need to pay attention to. So it's not really for fun, except for when it comes to like Facebook posts and YouTube comments, blogs. And I work my way through those, and I think it's excellent practice. And I don't want to undermine reading. I think reading is really important, especially for students, to learn to read critically, to just learn to read. One of the ways I became a better reader, besides reading things on the internet, was turning on the closed captioning on my television. Just that constant word association. Became better and better at it, quicker and quicker. And I just don't want people throwing their arms up in the air saying, I'm dyslexic, I can't read, so I don't need to try. You still need to try. You still have to try to work through it. I do, and it's just, the way the world works. But, so in conclusion, yes, absolutely, listening to audiobook is worthy of recognition by others. Is it reading? No, it isn't. It's a different skill set. It works different parts of your brain. It just doesn't count. And I think if somebody asked you, have you read this? It's a matter of ego to say, I listened to it, or yes, I read it. Are you going to own up to what you really did and be proud of the fact that you are a listener? Or are you going to sweep a technicality under the rug and say, yeah, I read it? Anyway, be true to who you are. Enjoy. Peace.